Congratulations, you bought a gold mine. You didn't buy a stock. You didn't buy a piece of paper on an exchange. You wired $50 million to a broker, signed a mountain of documents, and bought an uncharted slice of jungle in South America. A few weeks later, you fly in on a private helicopter. You land on a dirt airstrip. A foreman walks toward you, shakes your hand, and places a solid 20-pound brick of pure, warm, yellow gold into your hands. You feel the weight. That single bar is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it came from the dirt beneath your feet. So you look out at the jungle. You watch massive machines tearing into the earth. You think about how much gold is still buried underground, millions of ounces maybe. You do the math, you're going to be a billionaire. This is the ultimate capitalist fantasy. You own the land, you own the machinery, you own the gold. You have, in your mind, built a money printer in the middle of the jungle. But there's one small detail you missed. You didn't buy a money printer, you bought a machine that eats money and occasionally spits out gold. And that difference is where the economics of owning a gold mine gets very, very interesting. Because a gold mine isn't really a business that digs up treasure. It's a business that spends enormous amounts of money moving mountains, hoping the mountain contains enough gold to pay for itself. For the first few weeks, you play the boss. You stand at the edge of the mine and watch enormous yellow trucks crawl through the dirt. Everything looks profitable. Then your accountant sits you down and shows you what you're actually paying for. The first problem is simple. Gold is valuable. Gold ore usually isn't. To get a single gram of gold, the weight of a small paperclip, you may have to process enormous amounts of rock, depending on the grade of the deposit. That means your mine isn't really searching for gold. It's processing mountains of material for tiny amounts of it. A truck carrying hundreds of tons of ore rolls into the crusher. The machine tears the rock apart. Then it gets crushed again and again. The material is ground down until the gold can finally be separated from everything else. And that's where the second problem appears. The gold is microscopic. You can't simply walk into the mine, pick up a rock, and pull out a gold bar. You need an entire processing operation. Crushers, grinding mills, conveyors, chemical processing, water treatment, waste storage, and an enormous amount of energy. Depending on the type of ore and the mining method, gold recovery can involve processes such as cyanide leaching, which means the mine has to manage highly hazardous chemicals under strict environmental and safety controls. Now you're spending millions on diesel, millions more maintaining equipment, millions on labor, millions on processing, and all of this happens before you make your first dollar of profit. Suddenly, the economics start looking very different. You aren't running a treasure hunt. You're running one of the most capital-intensive industrial operations on Earth. And the terrifying part is that your costs don't care how much gold costs today. The machines still need fuel. The workers still need salaries. The trucks still need tires. The processing plant still needs electricity. The mine keeps spending money every single day, even if the gold price suddenly falls off a cliff. And that's when you realize the first rule of owning a mine: you don't get paid for finding gold. You get paid for finding enough gold at a low enough cost to cover everything it took to get it out. But the math isn't your only problem. The bigger problem is what happens when you start producing something that is extremely valuable and extremely easy to steal. You employ hundreds of people. They work around heavy machinery, processing plants, warehouses, and transport vehicles. And somewhere in that operation is the gold. At first, the losses are tiny. An ounce disappears, then another. A shipment comes up short. A discrepancy appears in the refinery. You install cameras. You increase security. Then one day, someone gets caught trying to walk out with a valuable piece of gold. Now the entire operation changes. You can't simply trust everyone who works there, so you add security checkpoints. You control access to the processing areas. You monitor the movement of ore. You track the gold from the moment it leaves the ground until the moment it reaches the refinery. And now you have another problem. Who watches the people watching the gold? The security guards? The managers? The transport companies? The refinery workers? Every layer of security creates another layer of cost, and another potential point of failure. The mine that started as a simple business venture is slowly turning into something else, a heavily guarded industrial compound. And you're not just the owner anymore, you're the person responsible for protecting an asset that can literally fit inside someone's pocket and be worth more than they could earn in years. Then the outside world notices that you're successful. The mine is producing, the government is collecting taxes, the local economy is benefiting, and suddenly everyone wants a piece of the operation. This is where geography becomes your enemy, because you can move your money, you can move your investments, you can move your company headquarters, but you can't move a gold deposit. It's buried in the ground, and your entire business is physically attached to one specific location. That gives governments enormous leverage. Taxes can change. Mining royalties can change. Environmental regulations can change. Export rules can change. A new administration can come into power and decide that the mining company should contribute more to the country where the resources are located. You can threaten to leave, but leave and go where? You can't pick up the mine and move it to Switzerland. The billions of dollars you've invested are buried in concrete, steel, roads, tunnels, processing plants, and heavy machinery. You are completely tied to the geography, and this is one of the strangest realities of mining. The more money you invest, the harder it becomes to walk away. The mine becomes an asset, but it also becomes an anchor. And then there's the physical security problem. Imagine you're transporting a shipment of gold from the mine to an airport hundreds of miles away. The route is long, the roads are remote, the cargo is extremely valuable, and everyone involved knows it. You don't have to imagine what could go wrong, you already know. A convoy carrying millions of dollars in gold is an extremely attractive target for organized criminals. So you add security, armored vehicles, armed guards, secure transport, surveillance, multiple layers of protection. Every shipment becomes a logistical operation, and suddenly, the gold that looked so valuable when it came out of the ground is expensive to move. The mine itself may be perfectly secure, but the gold still has to leave. It has to travel through the jungle. It has to reach a refinery. It has to reach a bank or a buyer. And every kilometer between those places is another opportunity for something to go wrong. The more successful your mine becomes, the more valuable the target becomes. And now you're spending money to protect the money you're spending money to produce. Now imagine it's 3 in the morning. The jungle outside is completely dark. Rain is hammering against the roof of your office. Inside, the air conditioner hums quietly. In front of you is a wall of security monitors. One shows the perimeter. Another shows the processing plant. Another shows the road leading out of the mine. Another shows the vault. You look at the screen. Everything is secure. The mine is producing. The gold is yours. And yet, you can't relax. Because tomorrow, the trucks still need fuel. The processing plant still needs maintenance. The workers still need to be paid. The government can change the rules. The gold still needs to be transported. And somewhere beneath your feet, the entire business is still dependent on one thing you cannot control: the geology. The deposit you bought for $50 million might contain enormous amounts of gold, or it might contain less than the geological surveys predicted. The ore grade can change. The cost of extraction can rise. The price of gold can fall. And suddenly, the same mine that looked like a fortune on paper becomes an incredibly expensive hole in the ground. That's the real paradox of owning a gold mine. You think you're buying gold. You're not. You're buying uncertainty. You're buying a massive industrial operation that has to run every day. You're buying environmental liabilities. You're buying political risk. You're buying security problems. You're buying logistics. You're buying thousands of employees, millions of dollars of equipment, and an asset that cannot be moved if the country suddenly becomes less friendly to your business. And yes, if everything goes right, you might make a fortune. But if everything goes wrong, you can spend hundreds of millions of dollars trying to extract billions of dollars worth of gold and still lose money, because the gold was never the difficult part. The difficult part was everything standing between the gold and the money it was supposed to become. So the next time you see a gold mine for sale, don't look at the amount of gold buried underground. Look at the trucks. Look at the fuel bills. Look at the processing plant. Look at the roads. Look at the government. Look at the security. Look at the geology. And then ask yourself the one question that actually matters. How much will it cost to get the gold out before the gold runs out? Because you thought you bought a gold mine, but in reality, the gold mine might have bought you.